So now we come to the race. Go on, tell us about the race. You set off with 1,000 people.
Set off in 2 waves. So the first one was at 9. I was at 12 because I was a nobody.
Yeah.
We started way back in the field. What's going to happen here? I'll just trot out. Everyone goes mad. Everyone runs as if they're doing
Way too
10K.
fast.
Way too fast. Crazy. Yeah, you set off, you run through town, and then you hit straight, pretty much within the first mile or so, you hit your first big climb, which I'd done already. So I kind of knew it was coming, but so straight up. But you've got 500 people all crammed onto these little trails, so it's a real bottleneck. You know, everyone goes pretty slow. I think what I did realise on the race is that the one thing I did have was ascending speed, not running, barely ran any of it, but just walking with the poles and powering up. So
you felt that
worked my way through, and
it's easy to do at the beginning, though, isn't it?
Yeah, that was the big worry, is to burn yourself out. So I was definitely trying to keep some back. I'd given myself like an arbitrary goal. I knew that Paul Tierney, when he first did it in about 100 hours. And I know when Nicky Spinks did it, it was about 99 hours, something like that. So I thought, right, 100 hours, that seems like a good round figure. And if you do 100 hours, then you're probably going to be kind of top 50 or something like that. So I thought, right, that's a good. I mean, if I don't, that's fine. The aim is to finish.
Yeah.
But let's stick to 100 hours.
And what is the record?
So the male winning record is 60 odd hours. The female record was broken this year by Sabrina.
Our own Sabrina.
Yes, our very own local
is
vet.
the record holder.
Yeah. Just phenomenal, absolutely phenomenal. So she did it, 80 hours, and I think the record prior to that for the women was 85 hours, something like that. So she absolutely
blitzed it.
Yeah, crazy, ridiculous. So she was 5th overall, something like that, 6th overall. So
anyway, you're going up the first Alp, and you're feeling okay. After the first day.
Yeah, so my plan had been to run 100k or 110, 12k, whatever it is, before sleeping. So that was always my plan. I'd been awake since about 7 a.m. on race day. So, and the 100k or whatever, just over 100k took me something like 26 hours, which is actually pretty slow. If that was a 100k race anyway, but was probably about right for that. So I cracked on. It was nice because I wasn't pushing too hard, but I was gaining places, and I basically caught up to the first wave.
That's quite encouraging.
It is, but you have to be very careful, because obviously you can keep overtaking people. Obviously you could just sprint ahead and overtake everybody, but then you'll blow up. So I had to be careful. I knew I was not pushing too hard. I don't know, by the first day I'd probably caught up to the first wave of people, which means I was 2 hours. Just like that felt good.
All right.
But I didn't really know any of that stuff at the time. Obviously I can't see the tracking or anything like that. So I'm
feeling good.
Yeah.
Had you slept?
No, so I kept going until I got to this 100k, the second life base. By the time I got there, I was really starting to suffer. I was not good. My legs were in agony. I felt just knackered. I had actually had to nap for about 10 minutes in one of the previous sort of just normal little aid stations. And I was starting to feel
fatigue overwhelmed you,
and
you had to get your head down.
I'm not great with, one of the things I struggled with when I first tried the bob was, as soon as it goes dark, I'm like a parrot with the sheet over it, over the cage. I'm just asleep. So
you're lucky.
So I had to kind of keep and then now I can't sleep. But so I kind of keep. So I did struggle a little bit, and I felt pretty rotten when I got to the aid station. I felt, I felt really tired. I felt a bit kind of concerned about how I was going to keep going. And I had some food, had a shower, got completely changed, and I lay down. And I'd said to a friend of mine who was crewing for me, Caroline, I said, I'm going to do an hour and a half, see how I feel. And so I did a lay down straight away asleep. And I went and set a phone alarm, went off at an hour and a half, and I was like, I'm going to have another hour and a half, which I did. So I had 3 hours of fairly okay sleep. Got up, had breakfast, as in like croissants and coffee, and brushed my teeth and restarted the day, even though I don't know what time of day it was, but it was not morning. It wasn't normal breakfast time, but you've got to fool your brain a little bit. So I'd had 3 hours or ish of sleep, and I felt.
Fresh as a daisy.
Honestly, I felt it was
good.
Yeah, legs felt fine. All the aches, pains had pretty much gone, and I genuinely, and that was when I was like, oh, this is what's going. This is okay if I can sleep a little bit. I can keep going. So it was a real weird kind of realization. I set off and I felt fine. I was overtaking people again. I was back up. Really strange, really interesting, and that pattern kind of followed. So I did another 50k. Felt awful. I was coming in. I was limping. My legs were hurting. It was really hot as well. I was just really struggling. Lay down for 90 minutes. Not even that good asleep. Got up, had breakfast at 8 o'clock at night, whatever it was, doesn't matter. Brushed my teeth. Felt fine. Overtaking people, going off out. It was like a reset button. It didn't last forever. It only lasted for a few, but got me through the good chunk of that race.
So
yeah,
that's the pattern. When did that pattern change?
I started to, so I sprained this ankle, just minor sprain, but of course there was no rest for it. So it started to swell up, the lower leg started to swell up, so I started to slow down and I was a bit frustrated. But that made me push a bit harder, because come on, let's get on with it. So I started pushing, but then this was kind of resistance, and then I was taking less time at the aid station, so I was like, I won't bother with 90 minutes. The shower and the getting changed is taking too long. I'll just lie down on the bench rather than get in the bed. So I started stripping back my stops a little bit and taking less and less time. And I think that's when it started breaking down. So that was probably, my memory of it is so hazy and weird, but that was probably on the Tuesday, probably on the Sunday, Monday, Tuesday, so third-ish day, so halfway. So you actually go quite low at halfway. You get to about 300 meters above sea level, so it's really hot, and then you've got to climb back out. Yeah. And I felt pretty good after that, and that was fine. And then it was just a longer leg than I was expecting. I think it started to crumble a little bit there. I was struggling to descend was my big thing. But what was kind of, I looked at my phone. I didn't really look at my phone. I had a look and got all these messages. People like, "Oh, you're doing really well. You're in top 100. You're doing amazing." Blah blah.
Really?
Were you
actually in the top 100?
Yeah, I was. Yeah. And I looked at that and I was like, top 100. Decided that I was settling, and I didn't want to settle. I felt my body, other than the ankle, I felt good, and I thought I'm going to have a bit of a surge here. So I came out to the aid station, and I'd been lay on the floor, my leg in the air, and trying to get the swelling down and all the rest of it. Had a little nap, and then I started pushing, and which lasted for a while, and it felt good to push. And I started leaving people. Felt good. I think I got into something like 83rd, but I mean that means nothing. The problem with the position, you get into a position, then you sleep, and the next person comes past you, and it doesn't really mean anything until you finish. So I wasn't aware of who I was passing as such. I think I said to you when you asked me to do a write-up, I said I don't think I can, because the whole race is just snapshots and memories, and it's not in the right order, and I can't put an order into how it happened. It's a bit like, a big night out where you kind of wake up in the morning. It feels like that. It feels like it's something that happened. I know it happened, but I couldn't tell you exactly when, where, or what. I just know.
I wonder if it'll come back to you.
I hope so. But even if it doesn't, actually, I know in the moment it was good for most part. Yeah. But so I started the wheels were coming off at that point, but maybe I wasn't admitting it, or I pushed too hard, and my reaction was to push. Maybe only one wheel came off. I think I was going all right. Still, this was hurting, but I could still keep going. Yeah. And it was only really the struggle for me was I got to the second to last life base, and I was pretty tired and I wasn't feeling great, but I came out of it still G'd up, and I didn't sleep properly. I just lay on a bench for 20 minutes. So this is when I started to strip my sleep back and strip my stops back. I didn't give myself that time because I was like,
why didn't you?
I think because I knew I was slowing down when I was moving because of my ankle. I was thinking I'll save time elsewhere, which is a fool's game. You cannot.
Just going for this 100 hours?
Just trying to get as close as possible. I kept doing the maths, thinking, can I do it? And I kept paring back, where can I save time? And the stops is one of them. And that was perhaps a mistake. Because even in that hour and a half, your body does get quite a lot back. and I wasn't giving it that time. So I think that's maybe where the seeds for kind of crumbling a little bit kind of came from. But, you know, I still felt, other than that, I felt okay. I started doing this climb, and then it was this weird, this was coming out of this second to last live base. And I did this climb up, and you go up to this big dam, and it was a bit cloudy and overcast, whereas it had been clear previously. And it just started to feel a bit oppressive and a little bit kind of gloomy. And I was on my own, I'd been on my own for quite a while. And I just got this, and all these weird mental things kind of going on. I started to get this real feeling of threatening from the dam. This obviously doesn't make sense now, but at the time, there was this big concrete dam, huge, and it just felt like this threatening aura was coming towards me. It just felt a bit kind of, I didn't want to look at it, and I was going to just flying past it. Bizarre. And I carried on, it was just a bit flat and a bit dark, and I just felt a bit, and that was a real kind of struggle. But then I got on these like Jeep tracks, and I was like, if it's like this, I'm okay, my ankle can handle this. And I caught up to this American guy who was struggling with his feet, and we went together for quite a while and had a good chat, and that was really good. And then I started going into this night, and this night was the one that I struggled with.
Was this the last night?
No, this must have been the second to last night, I guess. But yeah, I just started. My brain had gone many times prior to this, but I really struggled on that one.
So are you running automatically?
Yeah, at times. During the day, it's not too bad. When that night comes, and you're just using your head torch, your eyes start to go.
You kind of tunnel.
Yeah, you're in this tunnel
light.
And the whole route is fully marked. Meter, a couple of meters away, there's another flag.
Crikey.
And they're reflective, so you can just see these points.
Yeah.
And you just very automatically move between them. And I didn't really like that because I was thinking, well, I'm not taking it all in and all this kind of stuff. But you swing between it, and other times I was euphoric, and it was great. So
tough night then.
Yeah, that was a tough night. So I
toughest night so far.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. So I got up to this high point, and I was like, I need to sleep. My brain's going, so I need to sleep. And there was a refugee, so I went in. They let me use a bed, and I asked them to wake me up in an hour, which they did. When I woke up, I could hear this rain hammering on the roof. Real pelting rain. And this lady, the refugee kind of guardian, woke me up, and I think I probably fell in love at that moment with her. She woke me up. She said, "You don't have to go out there. You can sleep for longer." And I was like, "Yes, I do. Yes, okay. I'll have 15 more minutes," and that was amazing. So I went to sleep for 15 minutes. I got up and it was still raining, and I was like, "I'm gonna have to go out." So I put every layer on it, my over trousers on, and fleece and waterproof and gloves and mitts and hat and everything. And I opened the door, and it's still hammering. I opened the door. And it was like heavy drizzle, but because it was a tin roof, it's like being in a caravan. It sounds worse. Like, oh, that's fine. So I carried on.
Take it all off.
So I got it off. I was boiling. I took all this stuff off, and then I had a pretty good night after that. Apart from it has then this about 12-mile descent, and it just goes on forever and ever, and you're just in woods. You have no idea where you are, and then my brain starts to go again. And I had to lie down at the side of the trail, and I just straight away asleep. And I don't know how long I slept for, but it was probably the most comfortable. Just the roots and rocks and everything else. Just straight away. But I mean, that makes it. I mean, a lot of my memories are in the dark, but I have other memories of you start under Mont Blanc, and then you're next to Gran Paradiso, and Monte Rosa is opposite you. We had Alpenglow over the Matterhorn and stuff. You're in these amazing places, Ibex and Chamois and all this kind of stuff, and you kind of I've got to remember that stuff because you can't remember the bad stuff all the time. So
it's a good place to be wasted.
I got through that. The next day I was okay, but that's when my caffeine stopped working. That's when nothing would coffee, Pro Plus, energy drinks, energy chews, energy gels, anything with caffeine in just stopped having an effect. And I knew that was going to come because there's a point where your fatigue overtakes it. And once I knew that caffeine had left me, I knew that was kind of like, you're on your own now. So tired that your body will just, doesn't matter what stimulant you put in it, you'll just straight. So, I hit that point on that.
So that's a low moment then?
Yeah, absolutely.
Probably the lowest?
Yeah, so Nicky Spink said this thing that you give yourself 3 chances to give up. Your first one, you keep going. Second one, you keep going. Third one, then you can think about giving up. So it was around this time on this, I guess, the day going into my final night. and I was going to give up. I had one big climb to do, and I just didn't care. I thought, well, who am I proving to? I know I can do this climb on a good day, but by this point, this is starting to hurt. I knew it was that weird thing. I know I can get over it.
Yeah.
On any given day, I can do that.
Yeah.
So I think I had 12 miles to go at this point to the fin, and I was ready to quit.
Yeah.
And I said,
but how high is this?
Oh, it's like,
it's a mountain.
Yeah, you're over a pass, so I think it was 2,800 meters or something like that. It was big. Okay. But I just thought, do you know what? The way I feel, I'm injured. This knee, the bit of quad here, really painful. I couldn't really go downhill. I couldn't really run. This whole leg had swollen up, and I called my girlfriend. And I was just on a fire track heading down towards the sort of last bit before you head up. And I called my girlfriend. I don't know what to do. I feel absolutely rubbish and I can't run. And I think I napped beside the trail again. Just kept stopping again. This caffeine had stopped working. Yeah. So I knew I was on my own in terms of nothing I could take, other than just keep putting fuel in. As in the
no
carbs.
drops.
There was no chemical that was going to get me
kicked
through
away.
this. Yeah, exactly. So, and I saw other people obviously the same state at the side of the trail and stuff. So I got down and I knew at that point I was ready to quit. And I got to this aid station. Really nice. People were really nice. And they gave me some food. And I asked for an ice pack because at this point this was really sore. This was swollen. And some paracetamol, which I learned was Italian for paracetamol apparently. And I had my legs up in the air, lay on my back, legs in the air, and I dozed off for a little bit. And one of the reasons I wanted to quit was I was on my own. All the people that I'd been trying to pass all these days, and I'd worked really hard to get past and get this really good position, had left me at one of the aid stations. They'd kind of moved on. And I was just dejected and felt a bit, and the prospect of it was going to be into the night, going over this pass on my own.
Physically, a bit wrecked.
Legs were wrecked.
Mentally,
kind of okay.
On a downer.
On a big downer, not feeling good. This was probably the.
Eating okay.
I could still get food in. I wasn't interested in any of it.
What kind of food were you eating at this point?
So at the aid stations, you'd get they called it brodo broth, which was just vegetable stock with some pasta in it, so soup basically, and you could just slurp that down. That went down really well. Eventually, you get pretty sick of that. Early on, I was having a lot of cheese. Got pretty sick of that.
Is cheese any good?
Yeah, it's full of fat, which was quite nice, but I was getting quite a bit of indigestion from it, so I had to cut out the cheese for a bit. And then other than that, I was having bars and gels and all the rest of it. But on the bob, I'd kind of learned that I could just, if somebody told me to eat, then I would. And when I set off on the tour, I kind of made a mistake in that I thought I would stick to the same feeding schedule you would in the bob, so it's every half an hour, which is fine for 20 hours. You can't do that for nearly a week or whatever, however long I was out there. I was getting to the point where I was like, okay, you can have an hour off, or you can have an hour without eating. What I should have had is more carbohydrate drink. I had some, but I should have had more of that. So I was feeling just rubbish. Lay down, nothing, whatever. And then I woke up, and all the people that had kind of, I thought, gone ahead and left me or beat me or whatever, all started appearing at the aid station. They'd all had their own kind of problems. Yeah. So there's this lady so there's this lady who had the same problem as me with her quad. She was there, and her husband had got her a compression strap. She had a pack of 2, do you want the spare? She was this American lady, and I was like, yeah, absolutely. So she gave me the compression strap, so that's kind of fixed. This other guy, this Italian guy who I'd run a couple of legs with, he kind of came in, he was really struggling with his feet. And then these other American guys came in, this guy who'd had really bad diarrhea, and whatever, and I'd given him some Imodium and all this and they all kind of appeared.
Payback.
And suddenly it's like, oh, we're all going to go together over this hill through the night. And I felt this, this wave of we can do it, and it felt, that was it's a bit cheesy, but it was this is what the tour's about, right? So I felt really good, and we set off up this hill, and
so there's a bunch of you.
There's a bunch of us now. There's a bunch of about 4 of us actually set off, and that was a huge boost. We were all just moving together, and I could still go uphill pretty well actually. My climbing was fine, my muscles felt fine. Yeah. Climbed up, and we got to this final pass, which is this big kind of the pass on on the tour, which is cold and Latra, and the weather came in. It was really cloudy. And then we got over the pass, and there was almost this unspoken thing that we'll just make our own way down because everyone's going at different paces. And I felt okay, and then my head started to go, and that was when I didn't really have many hallucinations or anything like that, but that was one where I sort of lost touch with. I'd already had trouble with kind of seeing things in my peripheral vision in my head torch, mainly buildings. I could see buildings reflecting glass. There wasn't buildings, but I could see them. So as it went dark, I put my head torch on. There's all these flags that mark your way. They're all reflective, but they go down the valley and then up this other valley, and then there's head torches in different places. And they weren't just following a flat plane because of the hills. And then you could see the stars. And I started to sort of get this kind of, I was almost in space feeling, which was very strange. So I struggled with that for a while, just sort of hung on in there and got to an aid station, and like I say, there was nothing I could take or anything to stop this, so I was just getting quite shaky almost. You know, when you're really tired, really, really tired, and I had these shakes, but I drank tea and ate food and all the rest of it, and you just have to keep going. And it was a moment of just a real difficulty of just dealing with it, but I knew I was near the end.
Yeah.
So you've just got to get through it.
There's no way you're not going to make it.
I've got to get through it, but I just was really struggling. What I should have just lay down and slept for a bit.
Yeah.
But I kept going and I kept pushing, and I got to this quite a nice footpath actually, which traverses a hillside overlooking. There's a valley, and then I knew Mont Blanc was opposite me, but I couldn't see it because it was dark. But I knew that's roughly where I was, and I was on this traverse. I thought that's really near the start of the last descent. Yeah. So I thought this is where I'm going to at least try and kick, because I was absolutely knackered. I don't care about my position, but I thought I've got to finish strong. That was like my big thing, just finish strong. So I thought I'll go here. I started sort of running, which I'd not done for hours because of my knees and my ankles. So I started sort of running, and I was all kind of leaning to one side because of this ankle, and I was sort of stumbling forward, and like I say, my head had gone a bit, but I knew I was really near the finish, and I could see there's a cable car goes up towards Mont Blanc from the Italian side, and I could see some lights flash on it, and I knew that's what that was, and I was like, if I can see that cable car goes from Courmayeur, which is the finish. Yeah. So if I can see that, I know the finish must be round this bend of a mountain. It's there. So I started like really going.
Tangible.
Yeah. So I started running, and I overtook a few people, and I was like, I say running. If I'd seen myself now, I was shuffling along, but I felt like I was running. So I did that, and I knew that I got to this. I knew I would get to a hut, a refugee, and then it was the final descent. And I'd walked up the final descent the week before, and then run down. And it took me about 40 minutes, easy jogging. So I was like, get there, it's 40 minutes, you can do that. Maybe an hour because you're tired. And I got to it, and my knee was just enormous by this point. It was melon size. It was bursting out of the compression thing I'd put on it. In fact, it did burst out, and I had to take it off because it broke the clasp thing that was holding it shut. Crikey. So I had to take that off, and it was enormous. This ankle was very painful, and I just couldn't go downhill. So I got to this last aid station. I didn't stop at all. Went straight through it because I knew I was so close. I emptied my water out as if I was in the Tor de France on the final sprint or whatever. I emptied my water out. I was like, I'm going to go
technically
for it. And but I couldn't go downhill, and I was almost stationary at the top of the hill. I could see the lights of town now, which basically meant I could see the finish, and I just couldn't get down. I didn't care. I just wanted to lie down. I didn't care about finishing. I just wanted to stop. So it was at that point I rang my girlfriend Kat, and I put her in the kind of little pouch on my rucksack, and I just had her on loudspeaker, and I said, I'm nearly finished, but I can't get down. I can't finish, I can't get down. So she kind of talked me down, essentially kept me awake. And she said, I can't help you, but I said, no, this is helpful. And she said, you sound pretty normal, you sound pretty with it, so that's a good sign. And I tottered down really slowly. This German guy came past me, and he had his phone out, and he was like, I can't see the markers. I said, there's nowhere else to go, just follow the trail, it's fine. He was like, "Oh, my brain is gone." He was moving while he ran past me, and I overtook him. He overtook me again when I got into the town. He'd gone completely wrong. His mind, he couldn't follow the markers. He said he'd been asking directions in the hotels and stuff, and his car had to like show him the way back. But it just shows what your brain is going through. So I got down and I met Caroline. Caroline had been with me at pretty much every aid station. So I'd hijacked her. A friend of ours, a mutual friend, was also doing the race.
Oh,
and so she'd agreed to
kind of, both.
Yeah. So she was waiting for me at the roadhead and walked me in. I was running, she was walking. There was shuffling alongside her, and I was making all these noises. And she said she's a doctor, and she said she's very calm under pressure and keeps things in perspective. And she said, I only became medically concerned about you. It was about 200 meters from the finish, and I just made this noise that just closed my eyes. So I got down, and there was the finish. So,
go on then. What time did you do it in?
I think it's 108 hours or something, 108 and a half, something like that. And I think it was 93rd overall.
Out of 1,000 starters.
There was about 1,000 on the start list.
Yeah.
I don't know how many actually started. So it was okay.
Well done.
The inevitable mindset is that
Top 10%.
yeah, which is what I said I wanted. I said I wanted to finish, but I probably want to go back and see if I can do better. Now in the back of my now I've finished. The satisfaction never lasts. I always think you can always do better. So.
Well, congratulations. That story well told, and you got through. So you've done this humongous challenge. You've done a few little races since then.
Hodgson Relay last week.
And the British Relay.
And then British Relay this week.
So, okay, what other undertakings have you got planned?
I'm quite looking forward to just having a normal kind of winter. I'm working on the house, and then probably get back to the gym over winter, and then maybe aim for like a good 10k time.
Get yourself back in shape, James, and congratulations.
Thank you.
Well done.
Thank you. Cheers.
Okay.